Hey, what's up everybody? So I'm going to try to finish up a video that I've been working on for quite a long time, and even though the results are, frankly fairly embarrassing for me, I still wanted to sort of share my experience and see if it maybe helps some of you guys out there. Now, back around 2017 when I first moved to Peru, I brought a Nikon F3 film camera with me, and I was able to bring some developing tank and some other stuff to be able to develop black and white film. Okay, so somewhere along the lines I ran into a couple rolls of old expired film in a bookstore, and I decided to go ahead and buy them, hoping that I might be able to get some images from them. Now, despite the fact that I knew that we live here in the jungle, it's really hot and humid, and probably these were kept outside for many, many years and nobody bought them, I decided to give it a shot anyway. Maybe part of me bought into some of the hype around expired film, and I was hoping for some unique results. So after some checking around, I found a photo printing place that still had one of the machines for C41 color processing. And I was hoping that maybe I could get some results from them. I knew again that probably hardly anyone ever used the machine. The chemicals probably don't get changed out very often. So I knew it was a big shot in the dark if I could even get any results from the film in the first place. But I decided to give it a shot. Now, I came across many hurdles along the way, and the first thing that I happened across that caused me a little bit of headache was the fact that the Photoshop that I had talked to ended up selling their old machine, and they ended up getting rid of that service. So I checked all around the area that I live at, and nobody did any film processing anymore, and so that was no longer an option for me. So I ended up waiting a little while longer, and I ended up shooting the film at some point along the way in hopes that I could carry it with me back to the US and send it out for development there, where I could also get some high quality scans. So the next obstacle ended up being that my plans to return to the US kept getting delayed and canceled because of COVID-19. So my travel plans ended up taking about an extra year and a half than I could have planned for in the beginning. So it took me a really long time to be able to get back to the US. Now, another hassle that I've ended up coming across was that I was trying to get my film manually checked by the security going through the airports. And the first leg of my journey went pretty well, but I had multiple stops through airports to get where I needed to go. And somewhere along the lines, they ended up running chemical tests on them and found some result that made them still put them through the scanner anyway. Now, what you'll hear from the security guards going through some of the more modern airports, that they'll tell you that basically anything below around 800 ISO speed film, anything slower than that will basically not be affected by their machines. But what they don't always realize is that the effect is cumulative. So every time you go through security, it gets scanned again and again, and so the effect can add up over the times that you travel. In fact, the traveling with film experiences that I've had while living here in Peru have made me decide that it's no longer worth it for me to do that. And currently I have sold my F3 film camera until a later date when I return to the US, and then I will be looking out for a film camera again. Now, when I got the film, I did realize that the condition was likely to be very degraded. However, I wasn't quite prepared for the extent of that damage. Now, the film was 400 speed on the box, but since it was expired in 2009, I decided that I was going to overexpose it by quite a good bit. In fact, 2019 was only around 10 years, but I decided to overexpose the film by about 3 stops, knowing that a little bit of overexposure would be handled better with the film than underexposure. So I decided to expose it at 50 ISO and then develop the film normally. Now, this may or may not have been the best choice. A lot of you film people out there will know better than that, but this was my first time shooting expired film. And so I'm just going off of a few rules of thumb that you might hear online, as well as a little bit of intuition in there as well. Now, one problem that you're going to have shooting a film at 50 ISO, for example, is that you're going to need a lot of sunlight or a lot of light to be able to take a decent photo. And I probably should have been carrying a flash for this, but I didn't have that. Instead, I had a 51.4 lens, and I pretty much had to open the aperture wide open for nearly every shot. Now, any of you that have ever shot with a 1.4 lens, especially a manual focus one, will realize that a lot of your shots are going to be out of focus when that happens, and it's very difficult to get an exact focus. On top of that, I wear eyeglasses, and here in Peru, they just fog up like as soon as you bring the camera to your eye, and it's very difficult. So that's one thing that I had a lot of trouble with, and so, you know, there's that as well. So despite any excuses, I wanted to show you some of these images and just show you what you might expect. Now, some of you guys might have seen some really cool expired film videos and results by other photographers online where they just get really cool results, maybe a slight color cast shift or something like that. And in this case, mine were pretty much very, very underexposed and basically very grainy in the shadows. And as you can see here, I mean, pretty much there was so much noise in the images, you know, given the situation, especially for 400 ISO film. Now, I grew up shooting a fair bit of film. I took a few classes in high school, and then after high school, my dad gifted me a film camera, and I used that for, you know, 40, 50, 80 rolls or something before I bought a digital SLR to help me save cost. Now, back in those days, it was very easy to be inconsistent in your film and your film photography, and then the look you achieve shooting film. There's always, you know, one step that you could have done just a little differently, or whatever the case may be. It was very easy to get sort of random results like people are looking for when you shoot expired film. What was much harder was trying to find a look and find a sort of consistency in your images and a way to achieve that. Now, that was what most people tried to shoot for, was how to get consistent results and find results that looked good to you. Now, later, after the digital revolution, you know, you started having a very consistent result coming from digital cameras. It was very easy to do that at that point. And so, you know, people started looking back on film, you know, and romanticizing that sort of, you know, unpredictable quality that you could have in some cases, especially around shooting expired film. Now, anyway, guys, I just wanted to kind of show you what you might expect, you know, at the more extreme end of shooting expired film. If you're not sure where your film was stored, how it was stored, if it was ever handled well, if it just sat in an attic or in a basement, or, you know, whatever the case may be, you may need to expect that you might get some fairly unpredictable results. Now, I know the images were not very good. In fact, I ended up you know, abandoning the second roll because I decided that it wasn't really worth the money to shoot and develop this second roll of film, so I threw that out. But I did enjoy the process, and I enjoy the images still, even though, you know, they're pretty lo-fi in quality and that sort of thing. Now, again, I wasn't able to get the results I wanted, and also I had to limit what I could shoot very much. I mean, I was shooting super wide apertures, you know, super long shutter speeds, and it just, you know, I probably should have done more tripod photography with it at that point. But I didn't want to do that. When I shoot film, I usually don't. So anyway, guys, I hope this will help some of you guys gain a little perspective, maybe have a little conversation. I'm sure some of you more experienced people out there will be able to sort of tell me what I might have done wrong in my process and what you would have done to improve that. And I wanted to use this video as sort of a discussion and to give people a slightly alternative view of whether or not you should go out pursuing expired film for your photography purposes. So anyway, I hope to have some of the discussion about that in the comments there if any of you guys are in that. I do mostly digital landscape photography, and this is sort of what I normally would shoot, as well as I have shot quite a bit of film and gotten much better results, stuff like this. However, this is the roll that I shot here, and a lot of people are embarrassed or ashamed to show bad quality work whenever it occurs. I'm not too concerned about that sort of thing, so hopefully it'll help some of you guys out there as well. Take care, guys.